Confessions of an SEO. This is Carolyn Holzman. Bottom line is this. I'm going to be honest with you about my experiences in SEO, whether it's client experience or what I see in Google in my research and testing. Likely, none of it you're going to hear anything I say validated by Google. If you'd like to think they are driven to have your business's best interest at heart, remember, they're a multinational business that last year pulled in way over $200 billion, and more than half of that driven from its paid ads division. So if you're a hardworking, conscientious SEO, I get you. And if you're a business owner, I also get you. Because before I was doing SEO full-time, I was a local business owner for decades. So let's get started. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 17. I'm going to start with a confession. Now, normally I start formulating topics for this show over a weekend, and I flesh it out, and by Wednesday, it's pretty much ready to go. I've got a thumbnail, and by the end of Thursday afternoon, everything is, as they say, in the can. This week, not so much. Originally, I thought it was going to be something related to the indexation and research console data. But once you're working in a spreadsheet, it really gets clear that for that type of information, an audio format probably isn't the most successful mode to communicate that. So, in fact, Wednesday found me completely at a loss for what to talk about. I spent hours after a full day doing SEO work, perusing Facebook, trawling, if you will, and sort of peeking into all the conversations, and frankly, not a single ping. Now, I know when I hit on a possible topic because it's almost like a physical beacon. It feels like, a gong, but there was nothing. And in my contrarian approach in general, much like it's always darkest before dawn, I knew then, because I was finding nothing, that whatever it was, it must be right in front of me, staring me in the face. I just had to relax and let things settle so that it would come to form itself out of a fog. Now, once I got to that point, things actually did start to clear up. And I came up with the idea that I could do a sort of, a hodgepodge episode. Now, I did one last summer. I called it like Bits and Bobs, which if you know anybody from England, they would know what that is. So here's the idea. I thought about I could share some of the SEO testing and research, and in here something that occurred in Search Console, something that I couldn't predict, something that happened in the middle of the night that let me get some images to document it, because now it's all put back together. But I'll cover all that later. So for starters, let's talk about some of the research, some of the testing and things I'm doing. So there's a I call it my mesothelioma project, and it's likely going to be written up as a case study, but see, that only becomes a case study if it lands in the top 100 results. Now, I'm still ridiculously positive that that's going to happen. And here's where I'm really proud of myself with the project, because with everything I've got going on at the moment, I came to this point where I realized I needed some help. And thankfully, help presented itself. And I'm having all the pieces put together so that when I launch the site, which will be sooner now because I'm not the bottleneck, I can see just how impenetrable or not the mesothelioma niche really is. Now, the thing that I take away from this is that being able to offload is a skill many of us as SEOs need to practice. I confess, I may be the poster child for not delegating. I promise I would do better. I write that down 50 times and tell myself, I promise I will do better at delegating. So there's that been going on. And in fact, I just got word that everything is put together. I was sort of building some things around it that will help the project. All right, so that's that one. So now, and this is the fun one, the continuing indexation project. In fact, while I was doing that little Facebook trawling, I did see a fair amount of people complaining after months of trying to get Google to index their content. They're still not getting their content indexed. Now, I have data that shows that if you want indexation of new content, stop using Search Console to achieve it. Now, I've been promising for a few weeks I would do a public and free to all who want to get all this information unpacked, explained, and provide an opportunity where people can ask their own questions. There will be a link in the description. Now, the link is where you can let me know that you're interested, because I don't have a date. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the first week in May. And I apologize that it's not set. I just had some life things I had to take care of, but I've decided that just gotta pull it together and do it. So it's going to be one of those short links. I'll put it in the description. It's the bit.ly link, bit.ly/. So it's going to be Confessions Index Party. Okay, that's going to be the link. So if you click on it, it'll take you to where you can give your name and email. And I promise, no spam. It's just that I just want to make sure there are 10 people who want this, because I don't need to go over this again. I know how to get my stuff indexed, but I do know this can help. And I know that this is a breakthrough method that I've tried. I tried it last fall and it didn't work this way, but now it does. And I will even show you a little trick on how you can know when your content is indexed, maybe even before it's ranking. And you will amaze your clients and colleagues by knowing such things. So if you come, I'm not going to waste your time. You will know what to do for your own content, and you'll have a pretty good gauge of the time frame. There's a lot that keeps coming out of this research project. It was started last August. Now, not only did it eventually, took me a while, solve the mystery of how to get new content indexed right now, even if you're not one of those high authority sites, but we now can be pretty certain on when your content will appear in the index. And I'm starting to see signs where it might be Google rolls back the primary index to an earlier state where, let's say, a page used to be indexed and then it's not indexed because they went back to a time before they had indexed it, and then slowly reintroducing those pages back into the primary index so that they're findable by their keywords. Well, and the reason all these words are coming out of my mouth right now, it may sound strange, but this is something that happened Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Now, I reported it on the Crawl or No Crawl report on Thursday. Now, these are daily short videos where I take the opportunity to spout off about what I'm seeing in the server logs. Now, in this case, I believe I was able to tell or make a pretty good guess that Google, after updating the Search Console coverage to the 25th of April, they rolled it back. Now, what I mean by that is, like I said before, it's pages that were previously indexed by both keywords were suddenly no longer findable by those same keywords. Now, I know the average SEO would say, well, that's Google knowing your content wasn't authority enough, and they'll start quoting Google chapter and verse. So even if that were true, and I would say based on what I've seen and what I continue to see, that Google doesn't have a clue about what's authority content. But even so, that still doesn't explain how all of those pages returned Thursday morning. Nor does it explain why in Search Console, where you can ask about a specific URL, you can, copy and paste it in there. All the information about those pages remained. It didn't change even when I couldn't find them. It said, nope, they're indexed. And they were indexed, those dates, it was either the latest crawl or the first crawl, depending on how old the test page was. They all remained and they all stayed the same. They did not change. So the far more reasonable explanation was this was an example where Google had two known points in their index. They knew everything they had at an earlier date and everything they had at the most recent date. So they rolled it back to an earlier instance of the index to make some changes to the Search Console. Now, if you watch Thursday's Crawl or No Crawl report, you will see the screen images I took at 5 o'clock this morning. And you'll be able to see what that looked like and what they were doing. And they put it all back and then some, because yesterday's test page is now findable by both its keywords. So it's not all us, people. We need to learn not to take some of this personally, or that whatever we see in Search Console is driven only by what we are doing, you and me as SEOs, or if you're a business owner, if you're looking at it and freaking out. You have to realize that you can know more than just what Google tells you. Believe your eyes. When I read what people think Google can do, and they're so scared to go past a 60 character limit in their titles, my heart breaks a little bit. So sign up to get the schedule and the link. So if you want to ask questions about this indexing stuff, and yes, you can invite your friends. It's my service to the community. I'm not charging for it. Okay, lastly, now this is a test that came to me kind of like as I was watching the server logs. I'm intrigued by the concept and the phrase mobile first indexing. You can read about it in the developer docs, but I was looking in the logs. And you can see the discovery render crawls are done with mobile Google bots. And that makes sense, right? Well, at least in Google, right? I haven't seen a mobile Bing bot for weeks. I think it must be sick or it died or something. I don't know. So getting back to mobile first indexing. And I was reading the developer docs and how much they stress make your mobile site exactly like your desktop, because we're going to go mobile first. How your page looks in mobile is how we're going to index it. And we're going to index your site based on the mobile version. And this got me to thinking. I was wondering how I could test this. And then it dawned on me. I happen to have a client who is like the person who goes to the chiropractor every week for maintenance instead of only after a car wreck. So he's really happy. And I have complete authority to pretty much test at will. I wouldn't do anything to put his domain or site at risk, but anything outside of that, I have the authority to do. And I remember that years ago, we set up a mobile site on a subdomain. Now, a subdomain, for those that don't know, it's part of the main domain, but it has a little section before the actual name of the domain. So in this case, it's M for mobile, m dot, and then domainname.com. And if the homepage is loaded by a mobile device, it's set up so the page is redirected to the mobile version. It's a pretty little theme that looks great on the phone. It's not a one-to-one match word for word compared to the desktop version. And of course, he's not on page one. But before you get all judgy, he sells out everything he has every month, 100%. He makes every dollar he can, so he is thrilled. And I even made a site that outranks his, that got him on page one and into one of those top whatever in the city. So he gets a lot without his particular website being on page one. But the point being, I realized I had a way to test this. And if I were, I don't know, let's say put everything that's on his desktop site into the mobile site and make it so it doesn't destroy the mobile presentation, and Google were to get a chance to, let's say, mobile first index that little puppy, the hypothesis is if his current position of his desktop version is because the mobile site is less optimized for search than his desktop, and by that raising the level of optimization on the mobile site to more the level that the desktop site is, maybe more, then the site should go up in rankings. Now, that's a pretty fun test. Anybody out there want to know the results of a test like that? Anybody else wondering, why would you do that? My answer is, why not? It's like it's been waiting all along for me to just reach out and grab this. I mean, what are the odds that somebody today would have such a setup already in place where all that was needed was simply to add content? If a site is already mobile responsive, then you can't you can't do this test. So I used to complain that he wouldn't update his main site, but now, maybe he can have 2 spots on page 1. So I hope you enjoyed this little update on my testing and research. Please don't forget to sign up to get on the notice list when I do the webinar on the indexation research, and I kind of unpack everything, and you can ask me questions live if you're there. But everybody, when I tell them I have a lot of information, I realize it's way more information that can be sort of posted on Facebook or in an email or anything like that. So I thought I'd make it available. I hope if you're interested, you'll sign up. All right, so that's going to do it for today. Thank you for being a listener, and as always, an extra special thank you to the sponsors of Confessions of an SEO. Please subscribe to Confessions wherever you're listening to it. It's on Audible, Spotify, Amazon Alexa, and if you haven't settled on one source for your podcast, you can just Google Confessions of an SEO. You can't miss it. By the way, you don't even have to have an account at any of these things just to start listening. All right. All of us stand to make more business and success together when both the SEOs and the business owners understand each other and Google better. It's been my pleasure to be your host. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the SERPs.